6 of the most terrifying plane landings that ever occurred. Ethiopian Airlines Flight 961. On 23 November 1996, the Ethiopian Airlines Flight 961 was hijacked by 3 Ethiopians seeking political refuge in Australia. However, the captain stayed his course as the plane was gradually running out of fuel. The plane made its way to the Comoro Islands and was eventually ditched in the Indian Ocean. It impacted at an incredibly high speed and broke into 3 pieces. The hijackers were quarreling with the pilots for control over the plane, which caused it to roll right before it hit the water. Out of 175 passengers, 125 their lives, many due to the impact and because their life jackets had been inflated in the cabin. This incident is one of the most well-known hijacking cases, as it was caught on videotape. It was also the first hijacked plane with a water landing. Garuda Indonesia Flight 421. A Garuda Indonesia Flight 421 was ditched into the Bengawan Solo River on 16 January 2002 near Yogyakarta, Java Island. The flight experienced a twin-engine flame-out during hail and heavy precipitation. The pilots made many attempts to restart the engines but to no avail. The final decision to ditch the aircraft was finally made. Several photographs were taken soon after the evacuation, and it was shown that the plane is resting in knee-deep water. Of the 60 passengers on the flight, sadly, 1 flight attendant didn't make it. Pan Am Flight 526A. On 11 April 1952, the Pan Am Flight 526A suffered engine failure soon after takeoff. The flight was ditched approximately 11.3 miles from Puerto Rico. The flight took off from San Juan Isla Grande Airport and was headed to New York City. Due to inadequate maintenance, the engines began failing, and the plane was soon ditched. While many passengers survived the initial ditching, those who were panicking refused to leave the plane and eventually drowned. The USCG saved 17 passengers and crew members while 52 people lost their lives. After this incident, it was highly recommended that pre-flight safety demonstrations be implemented. DHLA 300. In November 2003, a heavy DHLA 300 had been climbing out of Baghdad Airport when it was suddenly struck by a ground-to-air missile at 8,000 feet. Within 1 minute of this strike, the aircraft lost all 3 of its hydraulic systems, which meant that the flaps, spoilers, ailerons and rudder were all absolutely inoperable. With the left wing on fire, the pilots had skillfully used thrust vector to successfully maneuver this aircraft using the alternating engine power. In an incredible featuring of absolutely impromptu learning and controlling this aircraft through this means, after 1 failed attempt at landing, the crew were finally able to land. Only to then find that the runway in Baghdad was completely surrounded by an uncleared minefield. The aircraft had only 8 minutes left of flying until the fire would have completely burned through the wing entirely, it is estimated. LOT Polish Airlines 767. On November 1 in 2011, a LOT Polish Airlines 767 had made an emergency landing without any landing gear after a flight took off from Newark, U.S., to Warsaw, Poland. A hydraulic leak had meant that all the main landing gear could not even be deployed. Despite the crew receiving a warning about 30 minutes into the flight, they had continued the flight as normal to burn up all the heavy fuel load. It was just on the landing approach when the landing gear did not deploy that the realization hit that the aircraft would be landing without any wheels. Attempts to lower the landing gear by any possible alternative means failed, and the aircraft had circled for an hour to burn off all the excess fuel. The crew somehow made a successful wheels-up landing that managed to save the lives of all the 231 people on board. U.S. Airways A320. One of the most infamous and well-documented emergency landings that ever occurred was the U.S. Airways A320 flight captained by Chesley Sullenberger. On 15 January 2009, the flight took off from LaGuardia and flew into a large flock of geese. This caused the engine to lose all its power. However, the pilots were incredibly quick with their thinking and maneuvered the plane into the Hudson River, saving all 155 lives on that flight. This incident is popularly known as the Miracle on the Hudson.